What's up everybody, welcome back to Swine and Bovine Barbecue. My name is Drew Wilkins, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to make smoked Italian beefs using the JP Graziano and Barstool Sports beef kit. So let's get cooking. So first thing we're going to do, I'm going to tie up my chuck roast. Mine's completely separated right here. Pickings were slim at the grocery store. If yours is in one whole piece, this is a completely unnecessary step, but I'm going to go ahead and tie this up and then we'll get it seasoned. So these beef kits come with a seasoning jar as well as a jar of mezzo giardiniera. And this is all we're going to use for the actual beef process. We're going to take a little of the oil from the giardiniera, pour it over the meat, and that's going to be our binder for the seasoning. So get our meat all nice and covered up here. And we're going to take some of this seasoning and then just sprinkle it over the top. And that's how we're going to season our meat. Flip it over, do the other side. Got our meat seasoned up, so we're gonna let this sit here. Let's go fire up the pit. Our pit is cruising along at 275 degrees, so we're gonna place this seasoned chuck roast right in the middle of the grate here. Let it roll for a couple hours. We'll check back in on it soon. Italian beefs, these are one of my absolute favorite things to eat. They've grown in popularity a lot recently due to the TV show The Bear. Also, these JP Graziano and Barstool Sports Italian beef kits have been pretty popular lately too. I originally got this idea for a smoked beef kit from Evan Leroy out of Leroy and Lewis Barbecue. If you want to see how a pro's pro does it, check out his video. I'll have it linked here. But this is how I do it in my backyard. And with this YouTube channel, a lot of what I'm doing is cooking the things that I like to eat the most first. This is definitely up there on that list, if not the top. And I first fell in love with Italian beefs in Chicago in 2009 when I moved there. Had no idea what they were. Had my first Al's beef and absolutely loved it. When I go back, there's two things that I've got to eat when I'm in Chicago, and that's a spicy with onions and hot giardiniera from JP Graziano, and then an Italian beef. I typically do Al's just because of where I live, but on the south side there's Johnny's. There's a ton of good beef spots. There's Mr. Beef on Orleans, which is where The Bear was actually filmed. Really good as well. Ton of good beef spots in the city. If you find yourself in Chicago and want an Italian beef, you won't be of a shortage of places to get it, and I highly recommend that you do it. Highly recommend you stop by JP Graziano as well, and I highly recommend you make this because all of them are phenomenal and extremely good. I typically have just bought rolls from the store when I'm making this sandwich, but we're gonna get a little fancy today. So we're gonna make our own hoagie rolls. So we're gonna go in with 225 grams of all-purpose flour, 154 grams of 110 degree water, 15 grams of sugar, and 5 grams of instant yeast. If you're using active yeast, you'll wanna proof it first with the water and the sugar for about 5-10 minutes until it starts to bubble before adding the flour. And start mixing slowly. The dough is coming together. We're gonna add in 3 grams of sea salt. And then we're gonna slowly add in 2 tablespoons of cubed up butter. Dough is a little soft, so we're gonna add about a tablespoon worth of flour at a time until the dough's consistency comes back to where we want it to be. 1 tablespoon and 1 teaspoon is all it took to get this dough to come together. So we're gonna take this off, get our dough off the hook here, put it into a grease bowl. Cover it with plastic wrap. Our dough has doubled in size, so we're gonna punch it down, lightly flour this work surface, and then put it into some individual rolls. So we're gonna lay out our dough. Gonna cover this with some greased plastic wrap. Let it ideally double in size again, and we'll put it in the oven. All right, our dough has about doubled in size. Make some little cuts in it. Is this necessary? Maybe not, but it's gonna look cool. Gonna hit them with some egg wash. Now we're gonna pop it into a 375 degree oven for roughly 20 minutes until they're nice and cooked. Roughly 25 minutes later, our bread is done. Beef broth. Usually I would love to put these beef soup bones and oxtails on the chud pit, get some awesome color on it, either the chud pit or the mini chud box pro, have some of the oxtail and marrow drip down on the coals, get some good flavor that way. But we've got thunderstorms and rain in Dallas today, and my cook area is not covered. So we're gonna throw these in the oven. We got just under 3 pounds of oxtail and just under 4 pounds of beef soup bones. You can find these in the meat section of most grocery stores, pretty readily available. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put them in the oven at 475 degrees until they get some nice color on them, probably anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour. Pull them out and then we'll throw our stock together. First, let's get these in the oven. Gonna drizzle a little avocado oil over these, help them get that color. While our bones are roasting, let's rough chop our aromatics. Got some nice browning on our oxtail and soup bones, so we're gonna add them to the pot with our aromatics. Gonna cover this all up with water, put it back on the burner, bring it up to a simmer. Our stock has come up to a simmer, gonna let it go for the next several hours, reduce it probably by at least half. 9 hours later, our stock has reduced by half. I'm gonna strain this, put it in the fridge, and we'll use it tomorrow with the beefs. We have our beef stock here. It's time to make the actual liquid portion for the Italian beefs. Got a little fat up top, we're gonna scoop that off, pour this into the pan, then we'll add the giardiniera and the seasoning once it comes up to a simmer. We're gonna add the majority of this Italian beef seasoning jar. And then we're gonna add the majority of this bottle of mezzo giardiniera as well. I like to keep some fresh, that way I can add fresh jarred on top of my beef as well. We're also gonna add some kosher salt to this. The beef broth was not salted. I did not put any salt in it yesterday, that way we could adjust as needed. It's a little over 3 hours later. The bark is set on our chuck roast. It's reading around 150 internal, so now it's time to baptize it. So first we're gonna grab our chuck roast, and we're gonna put it in this little quarter hotel pan. Now we're gonna baptize it with our broth, spice, and giardiniera mixture. Now we're gonna cover the half pan up with foil. Let it go till that chuck roast is nice and tender. A little over 1 hour later, our meat is probing nice and tender, so we're gonna pull this off, let it rest. Now that our beef is nice and tender and off the pit, I'm gonna pull it out of the liquid here. We're gonna let it rest on the cutting board for a little bit. We can get rid of the twine. And just let it rest here, come down in temp a little bit, then we're gonna slice it, put it back in the broth mixture, and then it'll be time to eat. So our meat is cooled down, we're gonna slice it up and put it back in the broth mixture. Just going for thin slices here, nothing too thick. So we have our bread. I'm gonna take a little bit off, make more manageable sandwich size. Just cut it right here. Cut it like this, leave it attached. Not bad. We're gonna dunk our bread in this. Get each side, a lot of oil, a lot of stuff in there that's gonna help us toast it. Place our bread right in the skillet. Let it get nice and toasty. Our bread is nice and toasted, so let's make our sandwich. After all that work, it's time to assemble our sandwich. So we're gonna start with some meat. Get a good helping of meat on there. Then we have some of the fresh mezzo jarred. Gonna get a good helping of that right on top of our sandwich. Then we're gonna fish a little bit of the jarred that was in the mixture and put that on top of the sandwich as well. So now that we've got that done, fold it on top. There's only one thing left to do. Let's give it a nice dip in our liquid. I'm talking submerge that sucker. This ain't a sandwich you want to eat if you want to stay clean. So we got it assembled, it's time to eat it. Alrighty, let's dig in. Cheers. Man. As I said earlier when I was giving the Italian beef overview, this literally, I think, is my favorite thing I make. The flavor, you have to try it. If you've had an Italian beef, it's different. A lot of the same flavor profiles, but it's different, but in such a good way. The smoky flavor. That homemade bread was awesome. It's super soft. Toasting it gave it a nice little crunchiness to it as well. So I highly recommend toasting it. There's a lot of oils and fats in this giardiniera broth, beef broth that the meat's in. So it toasts up real nicely. It takes a little bit, so don't get discouraged if it's not toasting. But it's incredible. I mean, we had it on the pit for a little longer than I had anticipated. I was battling some wet wood. We had some thunderstorms and heavy rains yesterday, and someone forgot to cover up their wood pile. So was battling a little bit of that, so it took a little longer to cook than anticipated, but it's incredible. I've served this for a lot of people. Those of you that follow my Instagram have definitely seen this before. It is really, really good. It's got a little bit of a spice to it. Don't let that scare you though. JP Graziano has mild giardiniera you can get if you'd prefer to have a mild sandwich over one that's got a little spice. They've got a hot one. Their hot one, unlike a lot of things out there that say they're hot and isn't actually hot, is hot. So beware if you want to do that. What I typically do is use the mezzo for this, and then I'll put some hot giardiniera on top to give it a little extra kick without firing up the entire batch with the hot giardiniera. So, I mean, this sandwich is just, yeah, it's a hot mess. Like if you're familiar with Italian beefs, it's not something you want to like stay clean with and eat. If you've seen, I think it was Man vs. Food, they go to Al's Beef and he shows the Italian stance, how you lean over the bar. That way nothing gets on your clothes when you eat it. It's a messy sandwich, but it is absolutely delicious. So can't recommend giving this a shot enough. You don't have to make your own bread. You don't have to make your own beef broth. I did that because I had the desire to, and I enjoy doing stuff like that. If you want to go buy some rolls from the grocery store and some carton beef broth, feel free to. That's the way I've done it in the past, and it still comes out fantastic. If you want to put in the extra effort, now you know how. So please give this a shot. If you do, tag me on Instagram, Swine and Bovine Barbecue. Let me know how you like it. And if you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe. And if you like this one, give it a thumbs up. Thanks. We'll see you on the next one.